That's joined us today for our regular March 12th council meeting. At this time, it's 3 o'clock, and I will call this meeting to order. As you can see, Mayor Stanley's not here. I'm standing in his role as Mayor Pro Tem, so we'll get this meeting going. I'd first like to ask Pastor Brian Gibson to come up and give the invocation. If you'd stand with me. Yes, sir.
Well, come on, let's pray. Father, I thank you for the people in this room right now. I thank you for their heart and their attitude to bless the city of Amarillo. So we come to you now in a name that's above every name, the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the only name under heaven by which men might be saved. Father, I speak a blessing over this city. I speak a blessing over our mayor. I speak a blessing over every official attached in this room right now. I pray the wisdom of heaven, the grace of God, and the goodness of God would lead them and guide them. I pray you take Amarillo to a place that has living water and green pastures, a place of restoration and help. Right now, I ask that you bless this city economically, that you would drive back the fires that have plagued the surrounding region. I declare that rain comes from heaven. I say I hear the sound of an abundance of rain. Father, I pray you bless our firemen and our firefighters and those working after the loss in the region, that healing oil would come to this region and that you would bless these people. Now, I thank you that we're wise as serpents and harmless as doves. I thank you that you glorify and increase this city. I also pray for more investment for this city. Father, that people would come from the outside and they would build new industry, that new jobs would come to this region, that help would come from heaven, that people would rise up and call Amarillo and the surrounding region blessed. I thank you for these things right now. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Gibson. Thank you for the declarations. If you remain standing, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated. Okay, we'll move to the announcements. Ms. Coggins, do we have any announcements today?
No, Mayor Pro Tem.
Is it on? I think it's on. Is that better? Yeah, I'm up here. It's a little different. Yeah. Okay, we'll move to public comment. At this time, I open up public comment, turn it over to City Secretary Stephanie Coggins.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you for participating in today's City Council meeting. Your input and your opinions are important to us, and we're glad that you're here to share them today. At each posted meeting, we invite our fellow community members to address City Council regarding posted agenda items or topics related to city policy. Every speaker today will have 3 minutes to address the council. At the end of 2.5 minutes, a warning beep will sound to alert you have 30 seconds left to wrap up your thoughts. We ask that you stay within your 3 minutes allotted today. We have 2 public hearings today, so if you're here to speak on a public hearing, we would ask that you speak either during public comment or during the public hearing, but not both, in order to help us keep accurate records. And it's your choice at which time you'd like to speak on your item. When you come to the microphone today, please state your name, whether or not you live in the Amarillo city limits, and then you may address council with your comments. First today, we have Tanya Winston. And after Ms. Winston, on deck will be Nathan Smith.
Good day.
Hello. Hello, Ms. Winston.
Hey. Good councilman. Y'all look good. Tell Cole I'm going to get him. Tanya Winston. I am a citizen of Amarillo, Potter County. I am here today because I want to bring to y'all's attention that of a problem that I think that is a problem. I feel like I'm going back in slavery. Hoping that maybe you all can make a city ordinance concerning this. Public businesses mom and pop stores, some restaurants, Westgate Mall, for some beauty supply houses. People take the leisure time to be able to go and spend their earnest money in these different public places where they can buy whatever they want. The problem is when you go to some of these public stores, they won't allow you to use the restroom. That's a big problem to me. You have elderly people that may be shopping in a mom and pop store, Westgate Mall. If you're in Westgate Mall, you're in one of the stores, you have to go all the way to the food court to use the restroom. And each one of those stores have bathrooms. You have elderly people that can't always go all the way down to the food court to use the restroom. You have beauty supply houses that are owned by many Asians. They won't allow you to use their restrooms as well. I think that is a problem. I think if you are a citizen of Amarillo and you go to spend your money to support those businesses, they ought to be able to allow you to use the restroom. I feel as a citizen that I'm going back into the 50s and the 40s and the 30s where you couldn't go in certain places to even eat or use the restroom. So I think that's a big concern. I've had plenty of people to come and bring this topic up to me. I think this is something that needs to be sit down at the table and talked about. The other issues, electrical wires and cables are hanging really low in certain residential homes. Throughout the city, on certain main streets, you see low electrical wires and cables hanging. That's a problem. Amarillo Boulevard West going to McMaster's, there's a thing sticking out on the bridge. It can cause a fatal accident with a motorcyclist. Someone on their motorcycle going through with their pegs out can catch that loop. It looks like a tire. It needs to be attended to. I'm out of time. And trash, alleys. We need extra people to go through those alleys and make sure that that extra trash that's in the alleys need to be picked up. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Winston.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Winston. Nathan Smith. And after Mr. Smith on deck will be Jeff McGonigal.
Good afternoon, Amarillo Council dudes. I am once again here, Nathan Smith, to just let the Sanctuary City Eggy people have their vote. They're going around collecting signatures for a petition. Don't wait. Just let them vote if they want to make this a nonsensical sanctuary city where you already have no power to enforce it. Anyway, my rant. Matthew 5:17. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Figured I'd leave a note for the apologists since they're starting to bug me. Anyway, we're not a theocracy, so that's completely irrelevant. So we're pro-life. That's the arguments being made to this the sanctuary thing. They're pro-life. They want to protect all the little eggies. So we've had 17 state representatives sponsor the Life at Conception Act, which is a fantastic little health care bill, which will outright ban IUDs, intrauterine devices, bans in vitro fertilization, IVF procedures, and hormonal birth control. So that's just eliminating a lot of health care and, once again, making it look a whole lot more less pro-life and more pro-rape, as I harp on constantly. Now, the consequences of these bans will have a direct effect on society. I mentioned incels last week, the involuntary celibate. A lot of them would never have a prayer at reproducing. Now, especially if this Life at Conception Act passes, you're giving every rapist incel free reign to have as many kids as they can pop out before getting busted. And is Texas going to do anything to stop those rape babies from being born? Oh, no, quite the contrary. We want those rape babies being born. After all, we got to get our population numbers up. We can't have migrants coming in to get our population up, but we can force rape babies day and night. It's all the time. It's just the health care in this country is laughable. We're pro-life, but the pro-life party who uses this book that I use as a weapon to get what they want, there's quite a bit on what you should do with the sick. And the pro-life party seems to harp on these eggy things that are definitely alive, but then we can't give everyone health care that's adequate. We'd rather let people go bankrupt and be rendered destitute because we're so pro-life in this country. I'm trying not to lose my cool and slip, so starting to get a bit agitated. I'm going to go ahead and step off.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Jeff McGonigal. And after Mr. McGonigal, Jesse Frimmer will be on deck.
Well, good afternoon. I don't know if the mayor is, but last time I came here, he wasn't here. I don't know if he's avoiding me or something. I'm Jeff McGonigal. I'm from Amarillo, or I live in Amarillo. I got a quick quote for y'all. Just give folks a key and they open their own locks. Robert McCammon. Miss Winston, I had a 6'2" autistic man that is my son that needed to use the restroom like you were talking about, and he couldn't. That became a bowl in a china shop. It was horrible. It was horrible. The gentleman that just spoke, I love you, man. I think that's fantastic what you're saying, and you're expressing your rights of speech. I'm want to talk about the 144,000. That number, you hear a lot, 144,000. But I'm talking about the 144,000 voters of Amarillo. Let's just call it that. I don't know if that's the number. We'll call it 144,000. We got 144,000 people to vote. Would that be the most magnificent thing this city has ever seen? Probably this country. Probably this country. It would be totally awesome if everyone voted. If everyone voted, this panel would look a lot different. Last week's winners and so forth would look a lot different. Last year when we ran, there was a thing about this is for the all people. We're including the all. We're taking care of the all. That's not taking care of the all. There was also a thing about a level playing field I heard over and over again. This is not a level playing field. So what last year with Ginger Nelson, what I proposed was that the evaluation of the council and mayor would be as how many voters voted while you're in power. Think about that. You engaged the citizenry, and that would reflect that. That would reflect that. I think it's a pretty fantastic way of doing this. Fantastic way of doing this. So maybe we look at that. Because is there an evaluation? Is there an evaluation? Also, I think, let me step back a little bit. Instead of the people that win that have the most money and the most signs, maybe it's truer to who people really want to be led by. And I want to end this too with maybe more people would actually run for like next week or this next election. I tell you, I would. And I think I'm looking at actually running. Think about that for an evaluation. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. McGonigal.
Next is Jesse Frimmer, and on deck after Mr. Frimmer will be Keith Grays.
I'm Jesse Frimmer, 5723 South Milam. I live here in Amarillo, and I'm concerned about North Heights. We have had a real problem with certain water supply in that area, and in the construction business, that we would be concerned about bringing builders into that part of our city. And we have a lot of open lots in that part of our city because of the deterioration of that neighborhood. And I've talked to a number of the neighbors that live in that, and their supply off of our enterprise money is not adequate compared to what I receive in South Amarillo, because I've been in their houses and I've seen the water pressure there. And I've noticed that we have the Wofford building that was renovated by the city. We had to provide water for that. We had to provide water for the Thompson Park. Well, we had to develop lines to get water service to those two entities that were funded by the enterprise money. And I'm looking for us to look at that as an effort to try to get more development into North Heights by developing the infrastructure in that part of our city. If we could do that, I think we could get more developers moving in there to try to help bring some of our residential efforts into North Heights and not have so much of it moving to southwest Amarillo. And the one reason I would say that is because Potter County is losing a lot of its residents, and we're not getting any babies in the North Heights area, so the school district is contemplating shutting down certain schools because there's not enough people with children in the Potter area. So as a city effort, investigate trying to develop the infrastructure in that part of our city so maybe developers will be to go into that area and develop it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fremmer. And if you want to, Mr. Fremmer, if you want to talk to Floyd Hartman after this, yeah, okay.
Our last public speaker is Keith Grays.
Good afternoon. I'm Keith Grays, 707 South Polk, business address, which is why I'm here. I have an events venue that is rented for specific events, weddings, quinceañeras, sweet 16s, bar mitzvahs, whatever it is. I had an incident in my building 4 to 5 weeks ago where I rented the space to a young lady, and she hired a decorator that I specifically gave her instructions that that particular decorator has left large items that needed manpower to move them for 4 consecutive weeks inside of my building. My janitorial staff, which consists of some females, could not move it. And so she left it. Every time we've done this with her before, we trusted that she'd do better. And so what she did is she left it in there again, and the particular lady that had rented the space for her 15-year-old grandson's birthday party, we told her that she couldn't let her in. If she was doing her decorations, she could bring the decorations, but she couldn't come in until she saw one of the owners. And that's myself. And so this particular group said, we know her and she's been around our family for a long time. They let her in the building. She took all of her stuff out of the building under their contract. And she took table linens, almost $600 worth of white table linen that belonged to another decorator. And then I started saying, I'm going to have to do something. So I'm starting to get phone calls from them saying, we know the chief of police. And I'm going, I think I know who that is. And so I called. My last will and testament was that this girl would get me my table linens back. I'm not pressing charges or doing anything like that. I get a text from the chief of police's secretary saying I'm the police chief's office, not the secretary, but I'm from the chief of police office, and you need to quit calling my grandson's mother harassing her. She gets my cell number and texts me. And I go and register a complaint, who I thought was going to be with the police officer in internal affairs, and I name him in internal affairs as part of the complaint. He investigates his own complaint. There's got to be an oversight committee or something in this city that says you cannot do this. It's not about race, it's about customer service. Jesus Christ, thank you for not being complicit with $500,000 worth of stuff that the taxpayers did not want allowed in the area of creating and bundling all these offices, which needs cultural diversity, training, and development. The chief has a letter he will give to you. Mr. Merriman, the police officer, did not think that he was named in the complaint and answered the complaint saying everything I wrote in the complaint was unfounded. I don't like this.
Thank you, Mr. Graves.
Mayor Pro Tem, that concludes everyone that signed up.
Okay. Is there anybody else here that would like to make a public comment?
Wasn't going to really speak to this today until that last comment.
in reference to, ooh, I'm already over. Thanks. It's good.
We
That's the way to
appreciate
cut
you,
me
Mr.
off.
Skank.
Okay, so, in reference to the $500,000, if you do a little bit more in-depth look at what actually went on, what was being spoken about was a rather misleading, because it isn't necessarily a $500,000 increase. There was going to be zero increase in spending, and it wasn't going to trigger a tax increase. It was all going to be absorbed through the efficiencies that you guys have been actually pulling in, because you're running the budget completely different than we have in the past. And those positions would, in comparison, would be absorbed into the existing budget. And we've got a, as you even said in your comment online, it's a $500,000 and it's 0.19% of a $550 million budget. One thing that I do regularly is I follow the payroll of this organization. And it's astounding to me when somebody will say, we don't pay the city staff enough. Holy cow. Get that, and look at that, and see how many people. You have to get down to about 300 to 500 people before you're even close to getting out of the $100,000 bracket within this city. Now, I want people to make a good wage, but that's the bottom line of cutting. And when I saw this new positioning, the last city manager tried to change up some stuff and put in that situation there, and people know about what happened there. But this efficiency that could have gone on with these directors is possibly an avenue that needs to be considered ultimately, because the efficiency down the line, I know, and I've heard from several of, that we've got, we need like 32, 35, not necessarily officers, but new staff, new positions. We've been doing without those for about, a couple of years or more. So we've got a bloated budget payroll-wise. Please, they'll send it to you. Make a request and look it over and just see what's going on, because you'll be amazed. You guys don't get paid enough. Y'all are low ones. $520, and by the way, you're getting $520 a year. That's like 52 meetings. We're only having half of those. So you guys are pillaging the pot here,
Thank you, Mr. Skank.
Did you already get your $520? You pay tax on that too.
We don't get $520, just as a statement of fact. Okay, is there anyone else? Oh. Do what? Is there anyone else for public comment? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. If you'll just state your name and if you're a resident.
My name is Betty Winston. I've never been up here before.
If you'll speak into the mic.
Mine is, I'm concerned about the bridges, the ones going north of the city, the bridges. You have Buchanan, Tyler Street, but the ones going north. I'm just asking, please, when you get a chance, I don't know how hard it is, how much it costs to light those bridges up. They're just dark. And when you go under the one that's by the trains go over it. In old days, we used to ride the trains in the 1950-somethings, and it was beautiful to see. But now when you go under the bridge, there's lights there, but they're dull, and you can't see it. It's really scary. When you cut, you're not supposed to be looking up, but you can't help when you go down, you look up. And there's things hanging all down from the bridge. And then there's one right here off going east of right here by the water company as well. There's no lights to go under there. There's no lighting. And I think that's kind of creepy. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Winston, can I clarify with you? Are you a resident of Amarillo for our minutes? Thank you so much.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, seeing as there's none, we'll move to item number 7, discussion items. Council, do you have any questions on the agenda today? No, sir. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 7A. Wait a minute. Nope. Okay, we're on to 7B. Is that correct? All right. Agenda item 7B, we're going to discuss the Convention and Visitors Bureau organization structure. I'll invite up Cash Smith. She's already there with CVB to discuss this item.
Thank you for a couple of minutes today. This should be pretty quick, kind of depending on y'all's questions on things. So we are currently operating under a 501c3. That's been since 2020. Earlier this year, we were approved for a 501c6. So we are getting ready to move our operations under the C6. Opens up some revenue generation areas for us, just from the difference in how those two nonprofits act. So with that, we will be refiling our bylaws, articles of incorporation, all of that paperwork to move our operations under the C6. The articles of incorporation right now is what defines, along with our bylaws, defines the seats on our board. And as we refile those articles of incorporation, that is the only place that speaks to the appointment of our boards. And it is our intention to, and this is why I'm here today, is to make sure that y'all don't find out afterwards and that there's no problems with that. But our intention is to leave the 3 citizens at large and the 1 council seat under the appointment of city council. And then the 3 hotel seat and the 2 attraction seats would be appointed in nomination process through our board. And that is basically my update. So the mayor and I have had discussions on this. Of course, Tom's on the board. It's been discussed in our board as well, so he's aware of that. But I wanted to make sure there wasn't any questions or pushback on that before we do that filing.
Thank you, Cashin. Council, any questions?
Mm-hmm. So I guess, are you having to start the whole board, new again? Or is it just, from a legal standpoint?
Yeah. I guess the filing may look like that. Is the filing going to look like that?
It's an existing board, so it's just changing the appointment in the bylaw. But it should be the same standing.
So everybody's terms and all that will be the
same. Nothing will change structurally as far as term limits, start dates, any of that. It really is just kind of moving the operations over and refiling that paperwork. But we do intend to change how the articles of incorporation read. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that before we do the filing.
So this basically allows y'all to revenue. Is that correct?
Yes. So the C3, not to go into the weeds on this, but coming out of COVID, we saw a lot of opportunity for grants under the C3. So that is why we originally filed under that. What we have found is we don't really qualify for the right kind of grant dollars, that we would then be able to use staff that is hot tax paid salaries to support programs that would bring in grant dollars, if that makes sense. Now, under the C6, we can find revenue streams in memberships, co-op opportunities, those kind of things that do speak to hot tax that would be appropriate programming for our staff to run. So it would help us, yes, open up revenue streams over the next few years.
Okay, great. Anything else, Council? Nope. Okay. Cashin, thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Okay. Moving to agenda item 7C. It's a discussion. Michael Kashuba with Parks and Rec Director come up with a discussion about the future of Southwest Pool.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem, Council, Michael Kashuba, Director of Parks and Rec. Wanted to just give you a brief update on Southwest Pool. During the budget discussion back in August, there was 2 items that the council had requested the park board go back and review. One of them was special event fees, and the other one was Southwest Pool, kind of the viability and long-term options there. So we went back and visited with our park board, and on actually Valentine's Day, the board unanimously supported a motion to maintain the operation of Southwest Pool, investigate the AquaTrack implementation, and enhance some marketing strategies to draw some more visitors. I'd be happy to walk through kind of the presentation we shared with them, answer any questions you have on any of the numbers or other information that you would like to see. On your screen is a graphic that we use to kind of track our pools and aquatics specifically. We can look at this on an annual basis. We can look at it weekly. On the top left, you see a chart that shows a dark blue, kind of a cyan color, and then the orange. So the dark blue is Thompson Pool. The cyan is Southeast Pool. And you can see the orange is Southwest Pool. So you can see as a number, Southwest generates approximately just under $13,000 last year. Comparatively, Southeast was about $44,000 and Thompson was $154,000. So Southwest made up about 6% of the total revenues from aquatics for the year. When we look at it, you can also see that our staff cost alone is about $36,000. So that's, we're making cost recovery of about 30% just on the staff portion of it. So that's just kind of a high level of the overall trends that we see when it comes to the pools. One of the things that we did was we updated and shared with the board, obviously, the fees. So when we look at the fees, a lot of that has gone to a day admission. So we've gone to just a flat rate of $5 for anybody entering Southwest and Southeast Pool. And then we also have programs where sometimes we'll do a special event, and that'll be at the discretion of the city manager, or Parks Director with city manager approval. When we look at Southwest specifically, one of the challenges has been over the last few years is after COVID, we've had a really hard time hiring staff in terms of lifeguards. And so we've had to make some strategic decisions in terms of operations. But one of the things you'll see here on the screen is last year at Southwest, we were averaging between 10 and 25 people a day going through the facility. That's not a very large number. The average, again, the revenue for the year was about 13. The expenses were about 36. We did have to modify the operations, and you can see there on the screen kind of the modified operation hours. And a lot of that is just driven by the number of lifeguards. When we've looked at historical trends, we've put the lifeguards where the most people are attending. And so we've had to make some operational decisions at Southwest. One of the things that kind of compounded this discussion was last summer we saw a large uptick in vandalism and damage at Southwest Pool. I think we ended up with 6 break-ins and vandalism events. And we had listed on here, this was our staff estimate at the time. We estimated it was about $26,000 in terms of cost to start making some of those repairs. We've actually worked with a couple of contractors to get some budgetary numbers, and one of the numbers came in at $50,000 just to replace basically the 3 big doors. So we know that going into the season, we're going to have to spend some money just to fix the existing facility that's there. When we look at where the pools are, and it's kind of hard to see on the screen, this is a map that we got from Environmental Health that shows all of the pools that are open to the public. So you can kind of see up on the north side, you've got Thompson Pool. You've got Bones Hook Splash Pad, which is the only recirculating splash pad we have in the city. So it's technically operated as a pool. We have to check the chlorine levels, things like that. And then the Warford Activity Center. And one of the questions was from the board is, why are we seeing such a decline in attendance? And it's hard to speculate, but we think that if you look at this map, you've got a lot of competition on the southwest side of town. Back in the day, it was probably the only pool that served Southwest Amarillo. Now, but you got 2 town clubs, and now you have Verdure as well. So you've got some competition in the direct area. And the facility itself is the old-style pool. It doesn't have the slides. It doesn't have lazy rivers. It's just basically a diving board in a lap swimming pool. What does the master plan say? Well, there's a few different things. One of them is it talks about pools and how they are costly to operate but are beneficial to the community. It talks about in the master plan that swimming pools are generally something that cities subsidize. But we also have this balancing act of we also want to maintain things strategically and make sure that we're doing that well. So We know that pools are not cheap to fix, and they're expensive to replace. And so we want to balance that out with that quality of life and that the service that we provide to the community. So again, some of the things that we provide, quality water safety programs, that's something that we think is very important to the community. Learn to swim programs. And then obviously it gets hot, so the ability to cool off in the summer. Some of the other things is scaling down the neighborhood parks, reducing subsidies, and then just overall promoting health and fitness. So with that, that is the information. We did present a couple of options. If we were to keep the pool open, one of the things that the Strategic Planning Subcommittee recommended was something different to try to draw new users back to the pool. This is basically an inflatable system that would go in the pool. It would be something different than any other pool in town has. One of the recommendations was if we go this direction, at least have the ability to put it at southeast if for some reason southwest was to close. So looking at it from a long-term investment standpoint. So that's the information that we have, and we present it to the park board. I would be happy to answer any questions on anything related to it.
Council?
Are y'all actually addressing the reasons why it's down, why the 25 people a day?
Well, again, that's something that we're trying to work through, but we think because there's more competition, you've got pools that are within a block or two from that existing facility. One of the other things, interestingly enough, when we pulled trends, after COVID, we've seen a decline in pool attendance. Previous to that, our numbers were pretty steady, and then after COVID, we saw a pretty significant decline. And I would say, just as a rule of thumb, when we look at all three pools, except, well, the older two, Southeast and Southwest, we saw those numbers in about half of what they were before COVID. Thompson has held steady over the last 10 years. In fact, compared to 10 years ago, it's up 42%. When we look at Southeast compared to 10 years ago, it's down 81%. And when we look back at 10 years, Southwest is down 91%. So we've seen a pretty significant decline in the attendance at both of those facilities.
Did they think about selling memberships like for the summer or half a summer membership instead of the $5 a day?
It is an option. It's something that's included in our fee ordinance so people can buy a membership. We've seen a decline in those numbers. One thing I will say is that there are two groups that use this for lap swimming. So the Amarillo Swim Club and the Canyon Swim Club do work with us and use that facility in kind of off hours to get their lap swimming in, because we're really the only outdoor facility that has that. So we do work with those two swim clubs.
At the end of the day, how much are we operating in the red?
So when we look at the numbers, right now the cost recovery for aquatics as a whole last year was 42%. Again, you look at Thompson numbers, it's pretty close, I would say, to break even. The other two are where we're seeing cost recovery numbers go down.
But the board wants us to keep it open, right?
What the board recommended was keeping it open. That would allow us to take a little bit more time and kind of review what the options are moving forward. One of the ideas was to do kind of a structural assessment, see what condition the pool is, because I think that would help us identify what those long-term CIP costs could be. Again, these are old pools. They were put in the late 60s, early 70s. Park maintenance staff has done an outstanding job of keeping these pools operational. Some of the filters are probably non-existent anymore, so we've been able to keep those operational. But at some point, it would require an investment by the city. When we talk about Thompson Pool, at the time it was $8 million. You're probably looking north of 10 now. So again, the board recommended keeping it open for a year, allowing staff to do a little bit more research, conducting a little bit more site work in terms of determining what the structural viability is, and also laying out some other options for council.
Okay.
So I know you probably haven't, but do you know kind of what the typical person that's coming using that pool, are they walking to the pool, or are they driving to the pool? Do you know who kind of?
I don't know that, no.
And I'd be able to do that. But what I hear you saying, I mean, is there's been a constant decline in pool usage in Amarillo for X number of years, I guess.
Yeah, that would be correct. The numbers held, it looked like fairly steady. I mean, there was a decline. So I'll just let's use Southeast as an example. So in 2009, Southeast saw 52,000, almost 53,000 people. In 2013, it was down to 47,000. 2019, it was down to 27,000. And this year, last year we were down to 9,000. So as a rule of thumb, Southwest was down to 2,500 people, whereas in 2009, it was 38,000 people. So we've seen a pretty precipitous drop over that time.
And is that, are cities seeing that in other places, that kind of natural decline?
I think a lot of cities have struggled to just get pools open. I know when we talked to staff has reached out to Lubbock, they don't have any splash pads, and I think they're down to one pool. So, we operate, I think it's 16 splash pads plus 4 pools, whereas, again, Lubbock, fairly similar in comparison, only has 1 pool. So it's just, the challenge has been keeping pools open with staffing. Lifeguards have been harder and harder to find. Cashiers have been harder and harder to find. So it's been a challenge not only statewide, but also nationally.
And so an option, I mean, I guess worst case scenario would be if you don't see improvement, then closing that, and then if people would want to use a pool, they'd have to go to one of the other city pools.
Yeah, I think there's different options we can come back with for council. One of the ideas is maybe you go with a really large splash pad. In terms of cost, it's going to be significantly lower than a new pool, still provide some water play for the community. So that's one of the things at the park board. We could go back and give them some options, and they could make some recommendations back to council.
And have you said any, so if we're here from a year now, what would you be looking for to say, or that we're making progress? I mean, would it be usage, or have you kind of set a goal for every year from now, we're going to say, well, we're making headway, so let's keep it open another year, or a year from now, we'd say, probably we're just going to have to look at these other options.
Well, and I think that's where the park board wanted to try something different with the AquaTrack to see if it did draw people back to the facility, to see if there was still demand. I think if we make that investment and we don't see a fairly significant increase in the number of attendees, I think we would have to have a conversation about what that long-term viability of the pool is.
One more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've noticed driving around town that some of the splash pads are a big hit. That it looks like younger families use the splash pads more than they do the swimming pools. And that's why I was wondering if more people are drifting that way instead of the swimming pool side. But I would be interested if you could keep us up to date as y'all progress this. Keep us up to date on what y'all are doing and how you're looking at this, and that way we can keep on top of it and maybe have some other ideas or suggestions. Thank you.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that.
And Mr. Schubert, do you break down the pools individually? So I heard a question asked about cost from place 3. But you said we're at 42% cost recovery overall, but do we look at individual pools? Do you have those numbers?
We could break those down. When it comes to the staff costs, in terms of lifeguards, we can assign those generally because sometimes they'll cross over, go work at multiple pools. When it comes to supplies, those supplies are generally split 3 ways. Thompson does have a little bit more cost because of the type of chlorine, so there's a little bit more cost for Thompson. But generally, as a rule of thumb, the general staff costs, general equipment supplies is equally spread. So we could get those numbers for you.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful if we had the numbers, the facility cost, but then even the products and that type of deal that you use just for Southwest or just for the other pools besides Thompson, even if it's rough, divided by 4, divided by 3, whatever, to get a true number, because I'm thinking, well, we only revenued 13 and just staff's 36. We're not even talking about the chlorine and the facility and the vandalism. You said the vandalism, if I saw correctly, was 26,000?
That was what we initially estimated, but when we started getting those budgetary numbers from contractors, we're looking probably around the 50,000. So that number's even gone up since when we started doing those estimates.
So even if we get better doors, is the issue that they can just climb that fence?
They climbed the fence, they broke through the doors, they threw everything in the pool, so it was kind of the full gamut.
Okay, and the 2 private places around there, Town Club and Verger, Do you know what the cost is to get in those or what they offer?
I don't, but we could get those as well. We could get a comparison for you.
Okay, I'd be curious to see what that is. We don't necessarily want to compete, I don't think, with private. You know, if they're doing well, we want our small businesses to do well. And I saw a lot of head nodding from, I guess, mothers that are like, hey, the splash pads are great. This AquaTrack thing, I mean, you're talking to an insurance guy here. I think that looks like a disaster. Kids running across some slippery plastic in a pool. I mean, I don't see how that's a good thing at all. But maybe it is. You know, I don't know. But that seems a little nuts to me. I think we would want to see those, the costs associated with that. If we can break it down to see what we like. Councilman Sherlin asked about operating in the red on that, specifically that pool. I mean, I think 15 to 25 people, and I would guess most of those, or at least some of those, are repeat visitors. I mean, we're not seeing a big variety of people coming in. It's just going to be those few. And if maybe we could do something, I don't think any of us have an appetite for investing a whole lot of money and sinking money into something that can't be used. I know this AquaTrack could be moved to Southeast, and that's fine. But like you said, if something does go wrong with the pool itself, we're forced with some major repairs that maybe fill that thing in and do a splash pad or something. You know, I think we'd like to see those numbers and then kind of see some options that we could do. You know, so okay. Anything else, Council?
No.
Okay, Mr. Kashuba, thank you so much. Okay. Moving past 7C, we're at 7D. Council, do you have anything to request, future agenda items?
No, sir.
Okay. I would like to request one. I would like an accounting of Proposition 1 monies. It's been since 2016. Is that correct? For the roads and that type deal. I would love an accounting to come forward to kind of look and see pretty, not super deep, but enough to where we can see the money, the bonds that were approved and the money that came in, the projects that have been done. You know, roads are a big deal for us. I know the departments are starting to look at budgeting already for next budget. But to see exactly where we are on those monies, to see what just the projects that have been done, the money that's been spent from that Prop 1 money, and then what we have left that's not already allocated. Is that clear enough?
Mm-hmm.
Is that good, Ms. Secretary?
I think so.
Okay.
Can I have one?
Sure.
Something I'd like to look at, I've noticed at quite a few intersections that after there's been a wreck, the tow trucks or whatever aren't picking up the wreckage. They're sweeping it up onto the actual median. And I've noticed quite a few of the bigger intersections have got car wreckage up in the medians. I'd like to look and make sure the contracts and stuff we have are covering that they clean up when they come get the car. So
Okay.
I don't know what department that goes in, but
Okay.
if we could. Okay.
Okay. Maybe some accountability. See what our contract says. Okay. Anything else, Council?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, moving right along to number 8, our consent items. Does any council member have anything on the consent agenda that you'd like to pull for discussion or separate consideration?
I've been through it and it looked good to me. I would like to make one suggestion, is when we're getting bids, if we put a bid out and only one person bids, I would like that notated, and or if more people bid than what is there, I would like to see, we've had 5 people, but only one of them could do the full job. I just think that would be good information for us and the citizens to actually be able to see what we're doing.
Okay. Is that future agenda that we want to talk about, or one consent item?
I think it's in line with what I put on the message board.
Okay.
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 Good idea.
Well,
Just
it's already
wanted to
on
clarify.
that one that we were talking about on the message board.
Yeah.
About when we get the agendas.
Yeah. Okay.
To have the multiple, just to be clear that we have, if there's multiple bids, that you want multiple bids listed?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we good with that?
Yeah.
Ms. Secretary?
Yes. We'll put that as a future agenda item or city manager report, and we'll work up some examples to get back to council.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify what Stephanie asked. Are you asking for a update here or to start doing that on the agendas?
On our packet
Okay.
that we have,
Okay.
that we do the research off of.
The one that goes public?
Yeah.
To the public?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely. Did the microphones go off?
No.
It was also
They're on. I'm turning them down every now and then because Tom's is feeding back a little bit, but they're on.
It's overuse. Okay. Anything else on consent?
I know why you turned mine down.
Okay. Well, I would ask for a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as stated.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember 3 and a second from Councilmember 1 to approve the consent agenda as stated. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that motion carries with a 4-0 vote. Okay, moving to the number 9, non-consent items. First one is reading of ordinance 8120. Invite Brady Kendrick, Senior Planner, to present this item.
Good afternoon, Council. 9A is a public hearing and first reading to consider a rezoning of an 11.19 acre tract of land in Potter County, Texas, in the vicinity of Hastings Avenue and Broadway Drive to rezone from agricultural district to moderate density district. And the applicant is OJD Engineering LLC for FAEC Holdings LLC. And the applicant on this one is proposing to develop the tract with a condominium-style development that will be a total of 104 units. And as the reason for the request, the proposed zoning would also allow for apartments, duplexes, and townhomes as well, just to note if the developer's plans were to fall through. And then this request would not conform with the future land use map category of rule for the tract. However, it does conform with the neighborhood unit concept of development, given its location between the commercial zoning at the corner and the residential zoning further back to the west. Given that this is a called for transition that we do like to see in zoning, and the fact that the Vineyard subdivision was not in existence at the time of the future land use map's previous adoption in 2010, the Planning Commission was of the opinion that the departure from the future land use map was warranted. We did some public notices on this one as required by state law and just received one comment or one question that was just a general inquiry into the rezoning. Once explained, they did not object. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of this request with a unanimous vote.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Council, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. At this time, I will open a public hearing on this item. If there's anyone here today that would like to speak for, on, or against this item. Okay. Seeing no one, I will now close the public hearing and ask for a motion on this item.
I move to adopt ordinance number 8120 as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Kraft and a second from Councilmember Simpson to approve this item. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And aye. Any opposed? This motion carries with a 4-0 vote. Okay, next item is 9B. Brady.
9B is also a public hearing and first reading of a rezoning to rezone a 3.07 acre tract of land that is a portion of Lot 6, Block 1, Ridgeview Medical Center, Unit Number 23, and an unplatted tract of land to rezone from General Retail District and Agricultural District to Office District 2 in the vicinity of Coulter Street and Outlook Drive. And the applicant is OJD Engineering for Medical Development 3 Limited. And the applicant is requesting this zoning change to develop the site with a medical facility. The request would conform with the future land use map, and given the existing development and zoning patterns within this section, this is on the periphery of the medical district. The Planning and Zoning Commission found that this would be a logical continuation of existing development patterns and zoning in the area, and would be a logical land use given the surrounding medical uses that are found within this area. And we did not receive any comments on this one. Upon sending public notices, and the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommended approval of this request with a unanimous vote. And that's just the zoning patterns in the area. And I will take any questions if you have them.
Okay. Council, any questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, at this time, I'll open a public hearing on this item. If there's anyone here to speak for, on, or against this item. Okay, seeing that there's no one, I'll now close the public hearing and ask for a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion. We accept ordinance number 8121 as presented on the agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Sherlin and a second from Councilmember Simpson to adopt ordinance 8121. Council, is there any other further discussion on this item?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that motion carries with a 4-0 vote. Okay, next item is 9C, reading of an ordinance 8122. And Floyd?
Mayor Pro Tem, we ask that you don't consider this one today. This one requires a public hearing. We didn't notice that. So if you would please just don't take any action on this. Move on to the next item, and we'll bring it back for consideration when we have it up to date.
Okay, so we're going to pull item 9C due to notice not given on the public hearing, and we'll just push it to another meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good deal. All right, next item up is 9D, and this is consideration of resolution number 3/12/24/1 to appoint an interim city manager. So, council, any discussion on this item?
I don't have anything.
Okay, well, in full disclosure, I guess we can talk about this. We had a discussion in executive, just for the public to know. This isn't just something that we're making a call on and just moving forward. We did have executive session today. We spent some time discussing this on what we want to do to move forward with placing Floyd Hartman as the interim city manager. So we had a good discussion. I think we set some things forward, some expectations, discussed salary, and all of those things. So, is there any other discussion? Any questions, anything?
None for me, no, sir.
Okay. Well, do I have a motion on this item?
Yeah, I would move to adopt resolution number 03-12-24-1, appointing Floyd Hartman as interim city manager to receive a salary of $245,000 during the interim period, and returning to a salary of $200,007,480 at the conclusion of the interim period.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Simpson and a second from Councilmember Sherlin to adopt resolution 03-1224-1. Is there any other discussion on this item?
No, sir.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Okay, this motion carries with a 4-0 vote. Okay, with that, all of the business on the agenda has been conducted. I want to note the time. It's 4 o'clock. So I would entertain a motion.
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn from place 1 and a second from place 4. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Okay, I hereby adjourn this meeting.
Good job.